Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Wayne Westland Board of Education. This historic meeting of December 12th, 2022, because tonight will represent the last meeting after 12 years of service to the school district of our beloved trustee and friend, Tom Buckaloo. In his honor, the Pledge of Allegiance this evening will be led by Thomas Corson Buckaloo Jr. and Creighton Andrew Buckaloo, Mr. Buckaloo's grandchildren, who are very big.
Everyone, please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Men, if you'll just stand there at the front, just stay up here. Turn around so the camera can see you. Now, typically, when we have students come here before us, we give a bio of them so everybody knows who they are, but we've got an authority on their bio. So if I could transfer this to Mr. Buckaloo, would you tell us about these fine young gentlemen?
Well, as you can see, these two gentlemen are scouts working their way towards their Eagle batch. And Tommy's pretty well along the way, and Creighton is right on his heels, and they're going to be Eagle Scouts in just a short order. Tommy is a cross-country runner. He's also a wrestler. Creighton is a part of the Dolphin Swim Club and is looking forward to our pools getting back in service and jumping back in again. So I might be a little bit partial, but we're looking at a couple of fine young men, and I couldn't be prouder of the fact that they share my name. So, guys, if you'll hang just a second, I've got something for you.
You probably put some cash behind the, probably look at that later. I said you probably put some cash behind the paper for him.
They're gonna have to pay me for this, So I've got some certificates for you guys. And the certificates read, in recognition of and presented to for participation in the flag ceremony during the regular meeting of the Board of Education, the Wayne Westland Community Schools. And this one says Creighton Buckaloo. And this one says Thomas Buckaloo. And maybe if you guys would take the opportunity, maybe you could introduce your mother and your father.
You get a medal for this.
Yeah. Public speaking.
So, the man sitting for me, who would please stand up. This is Thomas, or Corey Buckaloo, who's my father, and the woman sitting not next to him, but the next other one, is his wife, my mom, Catherine Buckaloo. Yeah. I didn't prepare this beforehand, so this is impromptu.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
They're here.
Oh, okay.
Alright, great. Thank you.
Let the record reflect Mrs. Claudia Buckaloo is also in the audience this evening. Ms. Hines, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Buckaloo,
Present.
Dr. Weaver,
Present.
Mr. Albrecht,
I'm here.
Hines, Ms. May is excused, Mr. Neal is excused, President Cox.
Is here.
Let the record show we have 5 present, 2
Thank you,
absent.
Ms. Hines. Next item on our agenda, 191.23, is recognitions and presentations. Dr. Dignan?
Thank you, President Cox. Good evening, community and board. I would like to call at this time Jacinda Somera, who's going to talk about the William D. Ford Career Technical Center and specifically early childcare and teacher education. So she's going to have some students help her with that talk.
Hello, my name is Carrie Christensen, and I take the Teacher Cadet program here at William D. I attend Plymouth High School, and this is my second year taking Teacher Cadet, and I wanted to share with you some of the things that we do during class. Every Monday and Tuesday are lesson plan days. We learn through the standards book, and we as a class challenge ourselves to be more creative every day. Wednesday through Friday is preschool, where we teach math, English, fine and gross motor skills, science, and social studies. We are constantly learning new ways to improve ourselves and skills to be future teachers. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak up here tonight and to be a part of the Wayne Westland Community Schools.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ace Thornton, and I'm a first-year student in the Teacher Cadet program. My home school is Wayne Memorial High School here in the district. I'm here tonight to tell you about some of the connections we have had in the program this year. Firstly, we have gone to the Holocaust Museum to learn how to teach kids about the horrific events such as the Holocaust in a way that does not traumatize them, but makes them understand the depths of this event, and how it is up to them and their choices to prevent it from happening again. Secondly, we have partnered with Stevenson Middle School who has their own Teacher Cadet program of sorts, and buddy up with their 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to give them the same taste we get as to what it means to be a teacher. They join us some Mondays and Tuesdays to see what it is like to lesson plan, and on some Thursdays to see what it is like to truly be a teacher in a preschool. The program is truly a great one, and I'm happy to have this experience with it this year. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to call Miss Jamie Ossenmacher from Plant Moran, who's going to give a presentation on our annual audit.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here tonight. Congratulations, Mr. Bucklow, on your retirement. That's very exciting for you. So, my name is Jamie Essenmacher, and I'm the lead partner on your audit engagement. I'm here today to present the results of the June 30, 2022 audit. Here with me tonight is Stacy Marchand, who's the manager on the engagement. So she's going to kick it off with a little overview, and then I'm going to go into some financial statement highlights.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you all for having us here this evening. So as Jamie mentioned, we are here to present the audit results for the fiscal year 2022 audit. Before we get too much into the presentation, we do want to extend a thank you to the entire business office, and specifically Shanda Cleaves and Kim Markey for all of their efforts put forth towards the audit. So thank you. So our PowerPoint presentation today is designed to be a high-level snapshot of the financial statements, and we'll also touch on the single audit of the district. So we'll spend a majority of the time focused on the graphics within the slides. But if at any point during this presentation you all have questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Let's see. Nope. Okay. So up on the screen we have summarized some of our post-audit communications. Before we get into this, I do want to touch on a couple of our deliverables that we issue as part of the audit. So the first one, which will be the main focus of our discussion today, is the audited financial statement. So this includes all the financial information of the district. To outline the structure of this document, it starts with the independent auditor report, so that includes our opinion on those financial statements. Followed by that is the management discussion and analysis. Then you have your standard face statements, notes to the financials, required supplemental information. So this will include your budget to actual comparisons. And then it also includes some required MIPSRS disclosures. And then as also a part of your financial statements, we have other supplemental information. So this will be your combined statements for your non-major funds, as well as a schedule of bond indebtedness. Focusing on the next deliverable, which is the single audit report. So as a reminder what a single audit is, this is required for all non-federal entities who expend $750,000 or more in federal funds within 1 year. So in fiscal year 2022, Wayne Westland continued to have this requirement, and this did include a significant portion of COVID-19 funding that has been received over the past couple of years. Included within that report, there are various letters. The letters kind of follow the structure of the report itself. So there's a report on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, or the CFA, as I will refer to it in this presentation. We also include a report on internal control over financial reporting. So this letter does state that we are gaining comfort around internal controls at the district. However, we are not expressing an opinion on those controls. And then the last report is the report on compliance for each major federal program. So as I mentioned, in that single audit report, there is the CFA. So on there, you can find all of the federal awards for which the district had expenditures during the fiscal year, as well as a reconciliation to tie those back to the audited financial statements, federal revenue and expenditures. The last main point within this single audit report that I want to highlight is the schedule of findings and question costs. So this is at the very back of the single audit report. This is going to be, think of it more or less as a report card, so a very high-level overview of the audit as a whole. So within there, you'll find the audit opinion on the financial statements as well as the single audit. You'll find if we had any financial statement audit findings or single audit findings. And then you will also see which federal programs we tested as major. So for fiscal year 2022, we did select 3 programs for testing as major. This did include child nutrition, the Education Stabilization Fund, so that includes the ESSER and GEAR dollars. And then we also tested Title I. Specifically related to the single audit, we had no findings or question costs. To define what question costs are, those would be anything that we as auditors would question that appear outside of grant terms, regulations, federal regulations. So as I mentioned, the district was found to be in compliance with all regulations related to those major programs. And then related to the financial statement audit, also within the schedule of findings and question costs, there is a summary of the findings for the district. So to bring it all together, as a result of the audit work, we did issue an unmodified opinion on both the financial statements and the single audit. This is the highest form of assurance that we as auditors can provide to indicate that the financial information is free of material misstatements. So to put it in simpler terms, this would be like receiving an A on the audit. And then to bring us back to this slide, so as I mentioned, this is a summary of some of our post-audit communications. However, we do have a report that we issued to the board, which summarizes all of our post-audit communications. Within that report, there is also an informational items section that we do highly encourage you to look at. It includes items that would be relevant today as well as school funding going forward. So if there are no other questions, we can move further along into the quantitative information.
Right, thank you, Stacy. All right, so we're going to focus here for the next few moments on the general fund. So that's the primary operating fund of the district. So this is where we tend to focus our financial graphics on. So in starting, looking at the balance sheet, so the top part of the balance sheet, looking at the total assets, which ended the year at $49.9 million. So this represents, so 60% of this, or $29.7 million, is really related to your cash and investments. So And then 18.5 million, or about 37% at June 30, is included in that receivable amount. And essentially, that represents your July and August state aid payments that you don't essentially receive until after June 30, but they are receivable in accounting terms at June 30 for the district. So that is really what that 18 million represents. And then your other assets, which is the orange bar, increased slightly from last year because there was an insurance payment that was made in July, that was paid in June, that related to July, so it's considered a prepaid asset at June 30. So that's where you're seeing the increase there. And moving over to the liability side, the total liabilities were 23 million at June 30, and really these consist of accounts payable, your due to other funds, and accrued payroll. As you can see, the accrued payroll makes up the most significant portion of the liability, which is at 12 million, or about 52% at year end. This is really driven by the teachers that are on 26 Ps and are accrued for at June 30th. Not only their salary, but their related benefits and retirement. And then the other portion of it is due to other benefits that are due at June 30 for that similar for the teachers. In moving to the next slide, we then move down to the income statement, so focusing on the revenue and other financing sources. As you can see, so this compares June 30, 2021 to June 30, 2022. So there's an increase here of about $4.2 million, or 3.7%. So really the revenue for the district is broken up into what we consider 4 major components. So the local, which is your property taxes and really your vocational ed money. Property taxes are about 16.7 million, and your vocational education money is about 1.3 million. The state sources include your state aid receivable. Your federal component is federal dollars that are allocated to the general fund, which is mainly your Medicare federal money that you receive, or your Medicaid. Sorry about that. And then your interdistrict sources relate to your Act 18 and your enhancement millage, which was about $6.9 million in the current year. Other portions of this make up transfers, so transfers of $471,000, which is really a timing between moving money between your funds at June 30th, and then you had a small proceeds from the sale of capital assets of about $13,000. As you can see, most balances really are consistent with prior year, with the exception of your state sources, and really we've seen that across the board, an increase in that area because you have your 51C money that's increased, your 22B money, as well as your 147C money, and then your UAAL. I know that that's a lot of acronyms for anyone that is not familiar with school accounting, so my apologies for that. And moving along to the expenses and the general fund. So really what we would expect to see here is, especially in school funding, is if you have an increase in your revenue, you'd expect to see a similar increase in your expenses. They kind of go hand in hand. So total expenditures for the general fund were about 116.5 million. They increased about 6 million, or 5.3%. And then we take that total pot and then we break it down further and looked at the allocation based on what we call, function code, really. So your instruction, your support, your athletics, your community service, transfers, and capital outlay. As you can see, the most significant expenses, which is what we would expect, would be your instruction and support. And they have increased pretty significantly from prior year due to some retirement increases and overall employee changes. But your athletics and your community services remain relatively consistent, and the capital outlay decreased slightly. Transfers to other funds also decreased significantly, going from 1 million in the current year to 3 million in the prior year. And again, that's really just a function of timing. So this next slide takes a look. We like to show it in 2 different formats so we kind of break it up by function code in the first slide. This really takes a look at it and breaking it out by what we consider the district's biggest expense, which is the salaries and fringes, and then kind of putting the supplies and other into another category. So it really demonstrates that the significant portion of the district's expenses, so 90% of the district's expenses in the general fund, and 89% in 2021 were really comprised of the salaries and benefits. So this would be consistent with what we see in other districts. Typically, we would expect to see this at 85% or greater. So the next slide moves into fund balance, and really right here, we're showing a trend over 5 years. So as you can see, it really has continued to increase or really remain stable over the past 5 years. The district ended the year with a fund balance of $26.9 million, a slight increase of about $450,000. We have seen an increase in fund balance across most districts across the state. It's really being driven by a reduction in overhead, decrease in in-person operations. Some things are still hybrid, some things haven't come back in person, and really just an increase in overall funds due to the CARES Act money, or what we call the COVID-19 money. However, it really is important to note that that CARES Act money and COVID-19 money is really one-time additional funds that the district has received that will need to be spent over a designated period of time. So depending on ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3, that all has time periods in which it needs to be spent in. And then the last slide I want to focus on here really takes a look at the general fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. So what we like to do here is the table at the bottom really shows Wayne Westland's fund balance as a percentage of its general fund expenditure. So if you were to take the district's general fund expenditures of $116 million divided by your fund balance, that's really where we're driving that 23.3%. And what we do there is that we then compare it to the statewide average for the state of Michigan. So the statewide average of 19.3 would be as of June 30th, 2021, because June 30th, 2022 districts were still reporting at that time. So really, when you look at Wayne Westland's fund balance in the general fund, 23.3% is just slightly above the statewide average of the 19.3%. We, again, as we've mentioned across the state, we've seen an overall increase in the districts, and we would expect that number, when it's all finally said and done, for June 30th, 2022, on the statewide average to go up slightly in the current year. Again, I think that the important thing here to note is that a lot of the increase in that fund balance is being driven by that one-time money that's essentially sitting there, and then the district being very conscious about how they're spending their money. So it's important to see that growth, but yet still stable. So it means, spending in the right areas at the right time. So with that, I will pause for any questions. But once again, thank you to Chanda and Kim and their team for all the hard work. Testing 3 federal programs and going through our audit is, as you can imagine, a really good time. So it's great to see that they've been
Thank
great
you,
to
Jamie.
help.
Questions, comments, Mr.
Just
Buckler?
comment, please. I take to heart your warning to be cautious of how we spend, that we're living on some one-time money, and that might not be here in the future. At the same time, I can recall, and you probably will too, when we set a fund equity goal of between 5 and 10%. And if I'm not mistaken, one year we didn't get to 5%. And here we are with 24 and 23%. We're not only meeting our fund equity goal, but we're also above the state average. And so we've come a long way, and I think there's a lot positive to be said, along with the note of caution. Thank you very much.
I remember when I started, when I started on this engagement, there might have been a deficit, like it was right at the point where we were right
seem to
below
think there
that.
was.
So I do remember that. So it is nice to see the growth.
Thank you, Mr. Bucklew. Other members of the board? Comments? Jamie, the board would like to thank the entire team at Plant Moran for this work. Obviously, we're very pleased by your report. I'd also like to mention our gratitude to Shonda Cleaves and your department for making it possible for them to have the books to look at. And I'd like to thank Kimberly May, who, although she's not here tonight, this is somebody that just sat down and went right to work and has done a phenomenal job. I'm sorry?
I think Kim is here. Oh, the other Kim, okay.
We got a lot of performers, so it's,
You said Kim, sorry. I instantly go to this because
so thank you very much for that report, Jamie.
No, we thank you so much for having us here. You guys have a great rest of your meeting. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're not staying?
No, she has to drive back to Lansing. Have a safe trip, Jamie.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome up our Walker Winter committee that's going to make a board recommendation. As they're making their way up there, I just want to thank them for the last couple months. They've been working together in the evening and kind of putting this proposal together. I also want to highlight Mr. John Silveri, who last spring has kind of led our talks behind the scenes, and I just want to say thank you to you, Mr. Silveri. So I'm going to turn it over to Kate Broll, that's going to start with the presentation.
Hi, thank you for having us here tonight. Also, thank you to our team of parents, teachers, administrators, community members, partners, and also, as Dr. Dignan said, to Mr. John Silveri, who helped. He is with Michigan Leadership Institute, and he helped facilitate along the way as well. So, tonight, we are recommending that Walker Winter Elementary does not close at the end of the 22-23 school year. Instead, we recommend that Walker Winter remains open with the current student boundaries, grade configuration, and staffing. In addition, we intend to use this as an opportunity to explore different instructional frameworks and approaches that align with our vision at Walker Winter. And so we will provide a quick recap of how we have begun that visioning work and some of the instructional frameworks we have started to look at. Also, I wanted to take note, or make a note, that really whatever happens at Walker Winter, our intentions are to have this as an incubator and of ways that we can have instruction going across our other schools in the district as well. Okay, so back in 2018, we approved a grade reconfiguration, including closing Walker Winter in August 22. And then last winter, you agreed to postponing that closure in 2022 to allow some time to develop planning and get a stakeholder group together. So we have done that. We started with a central office steering committee, then we formed a stakeholder committee, and there was representation from Walker Winter teachers, parents, principals, and also teachers, parents, and principals from across other schools in the district, as well as former board members, central office administrators, and outside partners who supported our work. The original purpose of this committee, when we got together in the spring, was to make a recommendation today to determine if we were going to repurpose Walker Winter or if we were going to close Walker Winter. Then, over the summer, the work of our team shifted. So when we came back to the school year in August, we realized that our enrollment was higher than we anticipated it would be when we started the school year. We had class size reduction across all of our elementary schools, and so our buildings were at capacity. And if we then closed Walker Winter, this would put our other elementary schools over capacity. So we took that off the table, and our new work of the committee was to just really recommend that new instructional framework for Walker Winter beginning in the 23-24 school year. So I'm going to pass it over to one of our members who is here, Joe Lane, who's the current principal over at Hamilton Elementary and was part of our team, kind of begin talking about that process.
Good evening. Really exciting. On October 20th, we had Gabriella Myers come in from Apple. And I'm sure a lot of people had the experience of using an iPad before. I'm really technology savvy, so that night I was looking forward to it. And I learned something a lot more exciting about what it can do in terms of expanding technology in the classroom. And through that night, all the stakeholders, there were different locations where we had this Apple iPad, and the instructor up in front of us, they had the device, and they were able to push things instantly to the iPad that we had. Not only did they push those things, but as we were utilizing them ourselves, she was able to see what was going on in each individual group's iPad and then share them, whether they were on a large screen, a smaller screen. And as we began that work that night, some of the things that came up about what would we want our vision to look like for Walker Winter, what was the visual things, what would, in terms of the space at Walker, look like. So out of that, we came up with some videos that were shared, as you can see some of the clips that were there. So it was really exciting to see what this vision would be. And with that being said, a lot of different words stood out in terms of what we wanted to see. And some of the big ones that came out was exploring project-based learning, inspiring creativity, and innovations. And over a period of time, we came up with a working vision. And this is the working vision at the moment. It says, all members of Walker Winter community will experience creative and innovative learning that strengthens their critical thinking, inspires confidence and collaborations, and leads to a lifelong passion for learning. And at this time, I'm going to pass over to Karen Duckelman, who's going to share more about the instructional planning.
Good evening. Okay, so I'm just going to discuss a brief overview of the October 27th meeting. We were presented with 3 different approaches to experience learning and teaching. Project-based learning was presented by myself and Amy Bidney. STEM Integration Challenge-based learning was presented by Dr. Hamad, who is the director of the STEM Outreach at Eastern Michigan University. And Design for Change presented by Kate Porter. We were briefed on each style and how it can positively impact all students and how they learn and apply their learning. All approaches aligned with our vision. These and maybe other approaches are going to next be shared at the Walker staff in our next phase for them to help prioritize and determine implementation next steps. We might take on the "and" approach as we continue to work through this and not just one singular approach, to best align with our vision and explore what works best for all of our students. And I'm going to pass it to Julie Midich.
Hello, I'm Julie Midich. I'm principal at Walker Winter Elementary School. And so now the implementation plan, like what is next? What's going to happen in January with the Walker staff? Well, it's really exciting and we have so much to do. We're going to work together, and you just saw the our draft of a vision statement. We're going to work together as a staff, look at that, and really work and think about what we want our children to experience, and what we want all of our staff to live. Then we're going to look at the implementation timeline, and we have to prioritize our wants and needs in order to kind of work through this and make sure that we're driving our vision. And that could include project-based learning and STEM integration. Then once we have that together, we really need to look at what our professional development is going to start looking like. Right away in January, we have ideas, and then moving forward for the rest of the year, next year, to really find out how we're going to be able to train our staff, ourselves, to make this the best possible education for our children. We're all going to work on this together. It's a collective staff movement. And now this is the official recommendation. Okay. So we are recommending that Walker Winter Elementary School does not close at the end of the 22-23 school year. Instead, we recommend that Walker Winter remains open with the current student boundaries, grade configuration, and staffing. And in addition, we intend to use this as an opportunity to explore instructional frameworks and approaches that align with our vision for Walker Winter.
Thank you very much. Questions, members of the board? Comments? Good. Thank you for your presentation.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Great work.
Thank you.
The next one is, I'm going to turn it over to President Cox, and he has a recognition for Trustee Buckaloo, so I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Buckaloo's family who made some details available to the board so that we could share them with you this evening. Our friend Mr. Tom Buckaloo graduated from Flint Central High School in 1963. Following graduation, he enrolled at Eastern Michigan University, earning All-American honors in wrestling at 177 pounds. I'll just pause there for a moment. And a master's degree. He also attained an educational specialist in administration's master's degree from Wayne State University. During his time at Eastern Michigan University, he met Claudia Bruner, and they were married in 1967. Mr. and Mrs. Buckaloo both began teaching for Wayne Westland Community Schools in 1968. Mr. Buckaloo was originally hired to teach English at John Glenn High School, and a couple years later began teaching social studies. During his time at John Glenn, he also served as driver education teacher, curriculum planner, social studies department head, assistant wrestling coach, head wrestling coach, senior class sponsor, junior class sponsor, sophomore class sponsor, freshman class sponsor, and the cafeteria supervisor, which seems more in keeping actually with the background. He was the John Glenn assistant wrestling coach for 15 years, taking over as head coach from Bob Lusk in 1983. Mr. Lusk, Mr. Buckaloo's dear friend, passed on October 26th. Mr. Buckaloo served as head coach until 1990. Both of Mr. Buckaloo's children graduated from John Glenn High School, Ann Elliott Buckaloo in 1989 and Corey Buckaloo in 1990. His grandson Tommy, who we met this evening, is currently a freshman at John Glenn and is on the wrestling team. Mr. Buckaloo reached tenure in the district in 2003 and retired from John Glenn in 2009. After retiring, he decided he still had more to give to our community, so he ran for the school board, was elected, and has served on the Board of Education for 12 years. Ladies and gentlemen, after that kind of a resume for our school district, there's little we can say, but thank you. Thank you, Mr. Buckaloo. Sir, will you join me at the front of the room so that I can present you this plaque?
I will.
I think it's actually gold, but it's painted silver. I think.
We don't have the budget for gold?
No. It doesn't work? No. Yeah, okay, you hear me. Before I give you this, Tom, I wanted to just mention on a personal note, after your first 6-year term, you and I ran together for this seat. But I remember the conversation that we had before we ran together, and you talked with me about relationships. And you know, sometimes when you serve in political office, you feel so emotionally connected to your belief system. Sometimes it looks to other people like you're running over them with a semi-truck. And this is a problem that I used to have, but I heeded your advice. And I went back and I recreated my relationships in some cases where I thought that was necessary, and it's paid great dividends to me. And it's helped me with my work here on this board. So you never really retired from teacher, you're just not getting paid for it. Presented to Tom Buckaloo in recognition of your outstanding service and dedication to the Wayne Westland Community School District, the entire school district, including your colleagues on the Board of Education, appreciate your contributions to the students and staff. Thank you, sir. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yes. I'm gonna get out of here. Oh, let all the family get up. Hold on so I can photobomb this.
You guys have done this before. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Buckaloo, back to work. The next item on our agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is 192.23, citizens' comments on agenda items. This is the portion of the meeting reserved for people who would wish to address the board on items which appear on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone that would like to talk to the board about tonight's agenda? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the consent calendar, 193.23. Is there a motion on consent?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht. Is there support? Support. Is there discussion? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hines.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. 194.23, Board of Education Committee reports. Mr. Albrecht, you have a report on the Superintendent's Evaluation Committee?
I do. This meeting was held on Wednesday, November 9th at 4:30 p.m. Present were myself, Dr. John Dignan, Kimberly May, Mark Neal, Secretary to the Board, April Ostrander, and Cheryl Watson. This meeting was to review the organization and process for the rest of the year to evaluate our superintendent's performance. Our process parallels that for school district certified staff. Several interim progress monitoring meetings take place over several months, and each has a specific purpose. The first is to consider the goals and make certain that they are aligned to district goals and that artifacts will be developed that depict progress. Second, there'll be a mid-year meeting monitoring progress toward those goals and artifact collection. And third, we'll prepare for a summary evaluation of the superintendent's performance based upon availability of student achievement data and artifacts that depict progress toward implementation of strategies and related student goals. Dr. Dignan reviewed his goals as they relate to the district strategic plan. First, school planning and support, professional learning communities, and multi-tiered systems of support will focus on Tier 1 supports. Second, student growth will focus on literacy using NWA and Read 180 data. Third, we will continue to review, analyze, and adapt resources for efficient alignment to meet student and community needs. Dr. Dignan also included a personal goal of engaging the community with consistent communication using a variety of platforms to keep parents and students continuously informed. Opportunities for parent-community engagement and feedback strategies for attracting and retaining students and staff, and easily acceptable information on our website will also be part of the focus of this work. He also spoke about possible internship opportunities for students based on funding that might be released, and focusing on ways to enhance soft skills for our students were also discussed. We discussed a number of ways to collect artifacts to present to the board for a final evaluation of our superintendent's performance. The next meeting of this committee will be held at the end of February or early March of 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Albrecht, and thank you to the committee for your work. There's been a tremendous amount of improvement in this area, and board appreciates it. The next report is the Finance Committee report. Ms. May, thank you for providing this report, which I will read on your behalf. The Finance Committee met on December 1st, 2022 at 4:30 p.m. via Zoom. Mrs. Nathan presented a 2-year proposal for design for change funded both by ESSER funds and donations. Mr. Wenzel shared the purchase of Chromebooks for Hicks, Roosevelt, McGrath, and Taft using Title I funds. He also shared the purchase of 10 network switches and licensing to support the devices using general funds. Mr. Vanderzee explained the recommendation for digital signage. Mr. Underwood shared the Bid Package 8 award for Elliott, Hicks, Roosevelt, and McGrath. Mrs. Cleaves presented the purchase of Humanex on behalf of Dr. O'Feely. The purchase will be made using general funds. She also shared both the investment report and the monthly check register. Dr. Dignan shared district updates and kind words to Mr. Buckaloo. Mr. Buckaloo shared his farewell sentiments with the committee, and Ms. May thanked Mr. Buckaloo for his mentorship and trust. The meeting was adjourned at 5:02. Next on our agenda is 195.23, the review and approval of business service and finance items. Just a note to the audience, item number 7 has been removed from the agenda. It will be handled under policy, so we will not be voting on that tonight. So with that, Mrs. Cleaves, thank you. You'll have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. The first up is a recommendation to purchase Title I technology. I'm requesting approval from the Board of Education to purchase a quantity of up to 505 Dell Latitude Chromebooks. If approved, these purchases will be charged to building grant accounts and will not exceed a total cost of $103,161.50.
Is there a motion to approve?
So
moved by Mr. Albrecht, support?
Support.
Ms. Hines, is there discussion? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hines.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Let the record show 5-0. Motion carried.
Can I vote?
I'm sorry, President Cox.
I agree with all the rest of you.
Sorry.
Okay, the next item, Mrs.
Next
Cleaves?
item is a recommendation for digital signage. Based upon the results of a public bid opening, I am requesting board approval to award the contract for the digital signage. If approved, the contract will be awarded to Electromatic of Farmington Hills, Michigan. not to exceed $299,698.95 and will be charged to bond funds.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Weaver, support. Mr. Albrecht?
Yep.
Discussion?
Question.
Mr. Weaver, Dr.
Uh,
Weaver.
Where will this digital signing be placed?
Tony's gonna answer, stand up.
Good evening. The digital signs will be placed in their interior signs inside the buildings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spezak. Thank you. Further discussion?
Yeah,
Mr.
just,
Bucklew?
it seems to me, if I'm not correct, we also opted to upgrade what the original proposal was for, and what we're getting is better than what we initially planned on, am I correct?
Yes, we had a committee with our communications department, and they chose a different type of software that they can communicate with all the signs from their central location, push out content to all the buildings, also letting the building administration push out content separately on the boards. For instance, in elementary, we'll have 4 boards. As we go up and the buildings get bigger, we get more boards. So it is a really nice system, and I think everybody's really going to like it when it's all up and running.
And you can see it at the Career Tech.
The signs at the Career Tech are exterior signs. As you drive down Marquette, we have put exterior signs at both Wayne Memorial, John Glenn, and Career Tech. The other 2 high schools should be done by the next 2 weeks, but they are also able to communicate through the communications department and push out content. So if we had a snow day, for instance, the superintendent can still put snow day out onto the signs on Marquette.
Further discussion? Thank you, Tony. Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hines?
Dr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo.
Yes.
Ms. Hines, President Cox.
Yes.
Let the record show 5-0, motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Cleaves.
Next is the recommendation regarding bid pack 8. Based upon the results of a public bid opening held on October 26, 2022 via Zoom meeting, I am requesting board approval to award the contract to Architectural Systems Group. This is for prefabricated casework at Roosevelt McGrath. The total award recommendation amount is $163,630 and will be charged to the bond, sinking, and grant funds.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Weaver, support by Mr. Albrecht.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Buckaloo.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next is the recommendation to purchase network switches and licensing. I am requesting approval from the Board of Education to purchase a quantity of 10 48-port Ethernet switches and 10 years of licensing. If approved, these purchases will be charged to the general fund and will not exceed a total cost of $51,440.20. This also includes shipping.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Albrecht, support.
Support.
Dr. Weaver, is there discussion? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hines?
Mr. Buckaloo.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox.
Yes.
Let the record show 5-0, motion carries.
I am requesting approval from the Board of Education to award the contract for contracted services to HumanX Ventures. HumanX is a service to provide the ability to source, screen, select, and place the most talented individuals available. Wayne Westland will be utilizing the Class of America plan. This plan also includes professional development. If approved, this contract will be charged to general fund and will not exceed a total cost of $55,000, which encompasses a 1-year contract.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Albrecht, support by Dr. Weaver. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Hines, yes. Mr. Buckaloo.
Yes.
Dr. Weaver.
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht.
Yes.
President Cox.
Yes.
Let the record show 5-0, motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Cleaves?
I am requesting approval from the Board of Education to purchase Design for Change programming and services. Design for Change will support the STEM Center program and teacher development. This will support all areas of project-based learning, design thinking, and the integration of STEM activities into all content areas. If approved, the cost for a 2-year agreement will be $119,200 and will be charged to grant funds.
Motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hines, support by Dr. Weaver. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes,
Let the record show 5-0, motion carries.
thank you. The pen was almost running out of ink there. Next item, 196.23, is review and approval of the curriculum, instruction, and assessments. Ms. Curry?
Thank you. I am requesting approval for a new advanced placement pre-calculus course for next school year. This has gone through the new course approval process and has been approved by Curriculum Council.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Hines, support by Dr. Weaver. Discussion? Roll call vote?
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
One more.
Yep.
Next, I am requesting approval for a new financial math literacy course for next school year. This has gone through the new course approval process and has also been approved by Curriculum Council.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hines, support. Dr. Weaver, is there discussion? Mr. Albrecht?
At what level is this course going to be offered?
11th and 12th grade.
Thank you. Thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes.
Let the record show 5-0, motion carries.
Thanks, Mel. 197.23, review and approval of human resource items. Dr. O'Feely?
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to make 2 personnel recommendations to the board today, starting with Scott Kelly as the assistant principal of John Glenn High School. Mr. Kelly comes to us with a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Grand Valley State, a Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Science from Western Governors University, a Master's degree in Educational Leadership from Concordia University. He holds a certification with the Professional Administrator Certificate in Elementary and Secondary Admin, Professional Education Certificate in Social Studies, and he's had experience as a teacher at Heartland Consolidated Schools, Milford High School as a teacher, Ypsilanti Community Schools as a teacher and SLC leader, and most recently he's been the assistant principal at Adrian Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Ophelia. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Weaver. Support?
Second.
By Mr. Buckaloo. Is there discussion? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hines?
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Dr. Weaver? Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
And I vote yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Welcome, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm very excited. Just want to thank everybody, and I'm looking for the opportunities to get started and building some great relationships and be a part of the family here at Wayne Westland.
Thank you, sir, and
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for being
much,
here
everybody.
tonight.
Thank you.
And I would also like to make a recommendation for Kelleen Villa as the assistant principal of Wayne Westland Innovative Academy. Ms. Villa comes to us with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Language Arts and Sociology from Concordia, a Master's of Arts degree in Educational Leadership from Concordia University, and she holds a professional admin certification in elementary and secondary administration, and a professional education certificate in elementary K through 8 all subjects. She's been a teacher at Evergreen Lutheran School, a principal at Evergreen Lutheran School, a teacher at Guardian Lutheran School, a teacher and administrative designee at Van Buren Schools, a principal at Van Buren Schools, a principal at Gibraltar Public Schools, and most recently, she's been the Way Advisor at Wayne Westland Community Schools.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Weaver. Support by Mr. Albrecht. Discussion? Roll call vote, please, Ms. Hines.
Mr. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Dr. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. President Cox?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Congratulations, Ms. Field.
Do you mind if I say something? She had a personal matter, so she couldn't be here this evening.
Okay, all right. Did she take the day off, or is she getting paid? The next item, 199.23, board officer interests. Ms. Hines?
Yes, I would like to be the secretary. It's so fun.
Every 2 years, or every year, right? Every year, the secretary has to poll the members of the board to determine who wishes to be considered for different positions in officership on the board. And that's done in public, so. So, you want to start with me?
Yes,
Yeah, well, I'm already sitting here, so.
so Mr. President Cox would like to be president next year.
Well, it doesn't mean I won't move if someone else wants to be president, but I don't care. I mean, if you want to be president.
No.
So do we go down the line and ask each one, or how will we do this, sir?
Ask who wants to be, I don't know. I've
So
never
should
been
we
the
go
secretary.
like, who wants to be the president?
Start with who?
Me.
You're in charge of cookies.
Okay, so what I will do is I would say, I would go like down the line, president, vice president, secretary, and then we'll go down and see who has interest, and I'll label them that way.
Sure,
Sounds good?
yeah.
Okay, so, who would like to be president for the 23-24 school year?
Me.
Okay, we have Mr. Cox. Any other nominations, anybody else? Okay, got that closed. And who would like to be vice president next year? Dr. Weaver? Anybody else? Y'all looking? No, yes, no? Okay, well, we'll close that out. We have Dr. Weaver. And who would like to be the secretary for next year? I do. So, Hines, anybody else? All right. And treasurer, anyone for treasurer? Okay, we have Dr. Weaver. And should we,
Well, we really can't, but.
yeah, because they're not here.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we
And-
can poll, you can poll them later.
Yeah.
Yeah, point of order. We probably need to contact our new board member
Oh, yeah.
to
Go on.
determine whether or not she's interested. And in fairness to Mr. Neal and
Oh,
Ms. May,
yeah,
we should contact them as well.
And
Yeah.
once you have that information, of course, that will appear on the, I think it's the 23rd of January. Is that our first meeting in January? I believe so. And these people will then be voted on in the order that they were mentioned tonight, and that's how the officerships will be established. Is that what you needed to do, Ms.
Sounds
Hines?
like a plan.
You all set?
All set.
Okay. Next item on our agenda, 200.23, is the superintendent's report and comments.
Thanks, President Cox. First off, I want to congratulate Mr. Kelly and Ms. Villa couldn't be here tonight, but we're really excited to welcome both of you in the Wayne Westland Community School family. I also wanted to talk about, I went to the Lavelle Guest Showcase this weekend at Wayne Memorial. It was a huge success, and they honored the 1996 Final Four team, so it was nice to see so many people come back. Thank you to the Walker Winter Committee that's been meeting the last few months. Ms. Broll and Mr. Silveri have done a lot of work behind the scenes, so thank you, Ms. Broll. The Communications Department has reviewed our internal, external communication methods, and just to update, we created a Wayne Westland wrap-up. It's a digital newsletter that's going to be emailed to our whole school community every other week. We also created a Wayne Westland Connections newsletter that's going to go out 3 times a year, and it'll go out in January, June, and August. Superintendent letters will still be kind of orchestrated on Sundays as needed on different topics. We heard the teacher cadet talk tonight. We've been, the last 2 years, been working with university partners. We want to extend and create some more grow your own programs here in Wayne Westland Community Schools, connect our career tech building. We're looking to articulate credit so our kids are going to get college credit while they're in high school, and they can move towards becoming teachers. Tonight, though, this is what I saved for, is Mr. Buckaloo. We're honored to pay tribute to you, Mr. Buckaloo, for your service on the Board of Education. I wrote a couple things here. Not only has he spent many years serving on this board, but also as a teacher in the district, and we know his service here is just one example of his lifetime of service. I look at his grandsons, they're about to become Eagle Scouts. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He's proud of our school system. He's dedicated to making us the best we can be. His life blessed ours, and we will remind us to be cheerful, encouraging, and to put children first as we lead Wayne Westland Community Schools. Mr. Buckaloo, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything you've done. You're an amazing man, and we're grateful that you've served in so many capacities here in Wayne Westland Schools.
Thank you, sir.
Last note is just I want to wish everybody the best over the holidays. Second semester starts January 17th, so we'll be back at it, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Dr.
Johnson.
Diggin. The next item on our agenda is the review and recommendations, members of the Board of Education.
You have citizens'
I'm
comments.
sorry. It didn't look like they wanted to talk. The next item, 201.23, this is the part of the meeting reserved for citizens wishing to address the board on any item at all. Doesn't need to be on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to do so? Sir, please. Have you filled out a blue form for us, by the way?
No, I haven't.
Will you do that before you leave tonight?
I will.
Thank you.
Eric Clearman from Wayne. I'm a city council member over there. We had a accident on Newburgh and Marquette last week. We unfortunately have one of those every 2 to 5 years. The trick with that is our Newburgh is a county road, so we can't ask Westland to lower the speed limit there. But I'm gonna recommend that our city council, and I'm gonna attend next week's Westland City Council meeting. I'm gonna recommend that their city council as well contacts Commissioner Al Haydes to see if the county can put a school speed limit in there, so that we can hopefully get less of these accidents when students are on the way to or from school. And I'd recommend that the Wayne Westland Community School Board, if they're so inclined, also contact Commissioner Haydes. The more of us that make our voices known to them, the more likely it is to happen. And hopefully we can avoid one more kid getting hit there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Clairman, and congratulations on your election victory.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address? Please.
Hello, my name is Shauna Hartwell. I wanted to introduce myself. I am the newly elected president for the Paras Association. Wanted to say hi as a parent and a staff member. I'm grateful to be here. I can't wait to work with you. My son is a senior at Glenn this year. And just wanted to introduce myself and say hi.
Thank you for doing so. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, thank you so much. We're going to go to 202, which is review and recommendations, members of the Board of Education. Dr. Weaver?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Again, welcome to Mr. Kelly, falling in among thieves over there at John Glenn. I'm only teasing. Ms. Villa, actually, I think very highly of Mr. McCullough and his staff. Thank you to Shonda Cleaves and her staff for all of their amazing work. And to thank Tom Buckaloo again for all the rides to conferences and for all the laughter and enjoyment. And also for not turning around after I'd gotten about 300 pens from the can't think of my words right now, but
Traverse City.
but I left in my hotel room about 300 pens, and we were not even to the end of the driveway yet, and he just laughed and laughed about not turning around so I could have my yearly supply of pens. So thank you for that, Mr. Buckaloo.
Thank you, Dr. Weaver. Ms. Hines?
Yes, I'd like to thank Mr. Buckaloo. You have been an amazing board member. You taught me so much. You and Miss Medell. I'm going to miss all of our concerts and games. And as Dr. Weaver said, the rides, all the conferences. You are an amazing man. I appreciate everything you've done for this district. And you will always be of high honor to us. I also was able to enjoy the game over at Wayne Memorial. I actually was a cheerleader when Lavelle and Lorenzo we won the state championships with the basketball team. So it's nice to see the class of 96, 97, and 98 all come together. We had an amazing time. We were talking about having our 25th anniversary for the class of 97 to be determined December 30th. So, and you know, as a board member, I definitely want to work on our alumni relations. I think it's so important because we have some very powerful people that came through Wayne Westland and to come together because they want to give back. So I want to work with the principals. I know we had quite a bit of turnover between, you know, Glenn and Wayne, but I definitely want to work to try to get those alumni relationships reestablished because like Mr. Clearman was saying, it's really important to be a part of the community. I was honored and blessed to be a Wayne Westland student, to come back to serve as a Wayne Westland board member and to work in the community. So, and it's just amazing. So I definitely want to work to get those relationships reestablished. And Ms. Cleaves, I'd like to thank you for these books here. I love the way you guys separated all this and made everything so easy and to just really see how the budget, how our money's being spent. You guys are doing an amazing job. When I first joined the board, we were like in that trouble area, 4% fund balance. So it's nice to see, you know, being on here 8 years, as you know, we're at 23, 24% fund balance, higher than state average. I think that's amazing. I'm also amazed about the Wayne Westland Innovation Academy. I'm excited about us keeping, you know, getting older. My birthday's like next week. The school over, we just had the presentation. Walker Winter. Thank you so much. See, losing my.
Hey, don't help her.
I'm getting older, but I'm just glad that we were able to keep that open because a lot of they don't want to close schools, and then too when you close schools, it makes it an inconvenience to people in the neighborhood who wants to be bused farther away. So it's really nice to be able to keep that open, and we don't want to have overcrowding in classrooms either. So this was awesome. I love having Dr. Dignan on staff. You have been just an amazing superintendent, just the innovative, creative ideas, and even bringing the whole board together as a family. It's just amazing. I love what's happening here, and human resources, our director, and curriculum, and it's just an amazing time. I brag about Wayne Westland all the time. I'm just so happy to be a part of this area. When we go to conferences, they're like, that's Wayne Westland, because we're doing what we need to do. And we're like actually examples of other school districts. So thank you so much for even allowing me to serve as a board member. And I'd like to congratulate our new staff members. So you're going to have a great time. You're going to love the family here. And like I said, that's one thing about Wayne Westland. We're a community and we're full of love.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Mr. Albright.
Thank you, President Cox. Congratulations to Mr. Kelly and Ms. Vila. Thank you to Plant Moran for a fine report, and congratulations, Ms. Cleaves, on that work. You deserve it. And my final remarks are going to be about the Bucklew family. Thank you to both Thomas and Creighton for leading us today. In 1986, my oldest son entered the hallways at John Glenn High School. I believe you were there. So we kind of go back.
We do.
In 1999, I was teaching in room 214, just down the hall from where you were. In 2002, they made me assistant principal of you. We've had some relationships since you guys talked about relationships. It's gone back quite a long time. But really, Mr. Bucklew, in all that time, I was awed by your commitment to our community, your dedication to the task, whatever it was, and most of all, your integrity as you carried out your role. We're going to miss you.
Thank you, Mr. Albrecht. I didn't meet Mr. Bucklew just when we decided to run together for the Board of Education. I met him at a parent-teacher conference when my oldest child was in his class, and my wife and I would go in and we talked to Mr. Bucklew, and generally my kid's mother was standing in the corner talking about something else, and Tom and I were joking and laughing, and it was always nice to see him. When I turn around and walk into his room, and he would be standing there, he recognized me, and in my 20s, and we'd have a nice conversation. And someone told me that he was the wrestling coach, and I wrestled in junior high school and high school, and my wrestling coaches never made me laugh. And certainly everything that's been said about this man is absolutely true, but there are some things that have been very important for our school district, and it's, the two things that I've identified is that he's unflappable. As many of you know, our school district has gone through a very difficult period. It's over now, behind us, but while we were going through it, it was difficult. And Tom always maintained this attitude as if he were both the defense and the prosecuting attorney for any given instance, and he would not come to a decision, he would listen. And I don't mean just he wouldn't talk while the other person was talking. He would actually listen and try to see their side of it and not divulge exactly what his position was. And really, probably the toughest meeting I've had in this role, and I've been in this role, I was in this role back in the 1990s, was Tom and Carol Medell and I sitting in a room trying to end a very destructive part for our school district, and he just handled it. He doesn't get emotional. He just handles it. And I found out it is the most effective way. Now, there's been times when I wanted to grab him and say, Tom. In fact, one time I even went over to his house and told Claudia all my troubles, hoping that she would. Claudia, when I leave, can you shake him? And of course, you were right. You were right with so many important things. Your dear friend, Miss May, wrote something and asked me to share it with everyone tonight, so I'm going to do that now. So this is coming from Miss May. Mr. Buckaloo, I consider you a colleague, a confidant, and a friend. You welcomed me to the board with open arms. You took the time to get to know me, to share and listen to multiple perspectives, and ask questions. And most importantly, we have laughed. Over the last 2 years, we have established a genuine friendship built upon respect and love. You have a genuine love of the Wayne Westland Community Schools, and you disseminate that love to all that you encounter. Your dedication is never in question, and I thank you for sharing that with me. Because of you, I understand the importance of pausing, thus allowing me to be more thoughtful and thorough in my decision-making. Amen. Not to be afraid to ask questions and to extend myself to others. While I know this is not goodbye because you're not going to get rid of me, I want to take this moment to say thank you for being you. Thank you for being all that you have been to the Wayne Westland Community Schools. A teacher, a coach, a board member, supporter, and most importantly, a friend. I will miss my buddy kicking my butt with his closing comments. She can get you and you can't get her back. I would also like to express our congratulations to Lawana Abney Mitchell, and we look forward to Lawana taking her seat next month. For those of you who followed the election, she had some very important things to say, I thought. She ran a great campaign, and I know that she has a dedication to the school district. I'm looking forward to working with her. I'm going to end my comments by saying that although many people in the community know, we lost a dear friend in the Wayne Westland School District with the passing of our friend Andrew Spizak. Andy served as deputy mayor in Westland. He also was on the Board of Education and many, many other things, too numerous to name. One of his greatest contributions probably was his youngest son, who's sitting right over there, Tony Spizak. So Andy, you will be missed, but you will not be forgotten. And with that, Mr. Buckaloo, I am going to give you the last word.
Well, I appreciate that. I promise I won't take more than 45 minutes or so. But before I get into my prepared comments, a word of advice, Dr. Weaver, about the collection of pens. If you snooze, you lose. And my good friend, Miss May, every time we sneak away for a rendezvous, my son-in-law shows up and catches us. So we're going to have to schedule things a little differently. Sir, I apologize, I did not catch your name, but I am aware of Marquette and Newburgh. I wasn't aware it was County Road. I've only been traveling it for about 55 years, but it's well lit. But when you talk about some things that Commissioner Hattis might do for that intersection, you might include a pedestrian crossing light as well. That might be something we could include. And I never thought about the speed limit, but that's an excellent idea too. And it's a shame that we've had a student that's been hurt. Fortunately, I understand she's well on the mend, well on the way, and that's a good thing, but we wouldn't want that to happen to another student. So I wish you luck in that endeavor, sir. So, a word about the board. Most of you people know it, but the work it does many things, but I think the most important thing that this board does is it exhibits its commitment to students. If we don't do that, I mean, what purpose do we have? We're elected by the community additionally, and in that role, we probably have some obligation to the taxpayers. And with that, I think this board is aware of the need to create some financial stability within the district, or at least see that it's created. We certainly don't have the expertise to do that. Ms. Cleaves and her staff does that. And if you paid attention to the audit, we do it very well. We're in excellent shape for the time being, and I applaud Ms. Cleaves for that and for her entire department. You folks do a wonderful job. Tonight, this month, last month, and for several months, I've been hearing some very nice things about myself, and I got to tell you, I've enjoyed every one of them. Who doesn't like to hear nice things about themselves? I'm certainly no exception to that. But the truth is, I've taken far more away from the experience on this Board of Education than I could ever give to it. This has been a wonderful experience for me, and I just don't have the words to say exactly how I feel, but I've given it a lot of thought, and I've come up with 3 things that may help explain just some of the takeaways that board members, particularly myself, have recognized from serving on this board. And the first is that I've been able to work with over a dozen school board trustees in my 12 years on the board, actually 11 and a half. And those 12 people have been fantastic. We've had some wonderful experiences together. We've faced some serious issues. We've dealt with those. And I think in the process, we've probably come up with some lasting friendships. And that's important too. So there's that. And secondly, I think I've been pleased, I've been privileged to work with 4 different superintendents, 3 interim superintendents. And during that time, I've seen each of them bring something unique to our school district. And quite frankly, the education and innovation that our current superintendent is bringing to this school district places Dr. Dignan far and away above anyone that I've had the pleasure of working with to date. And so, sir, I thank you very much for all that you've done and all that you're going to do moving forward. Thank you, sir. Third on my list, I think, as a board members, I've had the opportunity to participate in a number of learning opportunities provided by the Michigan Association of School Boards. We've attended workshops, classes, seminars, and we covered topics like board etiquette, board organization, school law, finance, just to name a few of the topics that have been covered. In fact, if you took the totality of the experiences that have been offered through MASB, it's probably the equivalent of another master's degree. It's an outstanding education, and those who partake of it will have nothing but positive things to say. So being a part of the school board has been totally rewarding. It's been a blessing, and I'm truly thankful for this experience. We always start our meetings with students leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And over the years, I've come to recognize this as a highlight of each meeting, having these young kids come in. Tonight, we had some older kids come in. And I got to tell you, the pledge has never been better than it was tonight. So thank you, Creighton. Thank you, Tommy. You guys are the greatest. I really appreciate it. My wife is here tonight, Claudia. We sometimes refer to her as El Jefe. She's clearly the boss. Did you get the translation? My daughter Ann is here with her husband, Jeff Elliott. My son Corey is here with his wife, Catherine, and of course, their two children are here. I want to thank them as a group and individually for all of the encouragement and support that I've received from them over the years. I got to tell you, there's nothing like a great family, and I've been blessed by having a great family. So thank you very much. I've served on the Finance Committee for most of my time on the board, with the exception of 1 year. I've been a member of the Finance Committee, and that's fitting. When I came to the board initially, I thought that I would do real well on the Policy Committee. I know nothing about finance. Most of what I know about bond construction, about revenue and expenditures, come from people like Tony Spizak and people like Shonda Cleaves. They've been very good to me, very patient, explaining step by step what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're going to get it done. And to be honest with you, they really are the backbone of that Finance Committee. They let us know just exactly what they're doing, and we just sit there mostly and nod in amazement. There are other people that have helped on that committee too. I think of Yvonne Scott, and also Kim Markey. They're the people who you go to when you need the details. And again, as a group, invaluable. All of us on the board attend various events throughout the school year, whether they be school events or conferences or workshops, and those things are all scheduled by the board secretary. Cheryl Watson has been board secretary in the past. Currently, April Ostrander is our board secretary, and she keeps us in line. She makes sure that we have what we need and that we get to where we're supposed to be on time. And the service of the board secretary, again, invaluable to us. So Wayne Westland is a team, and it's a family too. And I got to tell you, I'm proud to have been a part of it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Buckaloo, would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would, thank you.
Is there
Motion to
support?
adjourn.
Let him second it.
Support by Mr. Albrecht. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned.